I've tried to avoid watching The Traitors. I know 10 million people have viewed every episode on the BBC, and it's now in its second series, and it's hugely successful, hugely popular. But popularity doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It's based on a Dutch show, so it's a copy, called De Verraders, and it's about selfishness, paranoia, anxiety, fear. It's about whether or not we believe our neighbours. It's about playing on prejudice, about accents, about gender, about stereotypes. It's about eroding trust. And it doesn't come as any surprise to me that it's been developed by one of the people who developed Big Brother, that it's being promoted by Studio Lambert, made by Studio Lambert, which made, among other things, the program I was on, The Circle, and that people are told to trust their instinct. Well, I don't think that's actually what they're trusting. That's what we're told they're trusting. What they're actually trusting, in all likelihood, is the voice of God whispering to them from some part of their room, their studio, their hotel, their whatever the place is, this castle, and they're being guided by, prompted by voices who are saying, "Well, do you really mean that? Are you sure?" And is it a social experiment? Well, yes, in exactly the same way as the social experiments were done in the prison and the university in America, the Milgram experiment, the Stanford experiment, these vile experiments, which were not without a certain amount of nudging and tinkering. They were not pure science. They were not pure investigation, and nor is this a pure social experiment or indeed pure television. This is cheap television, and this is everything that reality TV has to offer. It's basically the same formula that you've seen again and again and again, with a slight difference. But then, that is really what I'm told popularity is all about. Give me the same thing, but different. I remember a publisher in Greece telling me to do exactly that. Give me exactly the same as this, but different. So copy this, but make sure I'm not going to get sued for copyright violation. Trusting your instincts. This sort of program pulls out the worst instincts in people. There's a person called Professor Daniel Freeman in Oxford who said that mistrust is fueled by a variety of forms of discrimination, including unfair treatment because of skin color, ethnicity, age, sex, sexuality, mental or physical health, and religious beliefs. Feelings of vulnerability can be triggered by experiences such as bullying and childhood mistreatment. And reality TV preys on that. Reality TV is as damaging to the people on it as it is, frankly, damaging to the people who are watching it. This is not reality. This is the worst parts of your deepest psyche manifested on television for entertainment. In the past, we would have been offered gladiatorial games. Now, I know, because I've done the research, that many reality TV programs have been dogged by mental health problems, by suicide, by depression, by levering people out of their own world into a world that they cannot inhabit, because the terms of that world are not clear. And that starts in the television studio. The friends that you make are among production, not with the other victims of the reality TV experiment. And the moment production is over, your friends disappear. And you're suddenly left with a situation where the television viewing public think you've become friends with all these people who you shared the screen with. You didn't. You didn't. You may, but that's the next stage. Instead, you feel this great sense of loss, and you're not quite sure what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's a loss of agency because you have surrendered your agency to these unseen voices who are very reassuring while you're filming. But then the voices stop. I was waiting for the voices after I left the circle. I was talking in the middle of the night because you're filming at all times, all hours, to try and unbalance you. And it's like dealing with the dead. I wake up regularly, and I don't know quite why it's happening at the moment, but I wake up regularly at the moment thinking that my mother has deliberately decided not to speak to me. She died in 1986. And in one of my dreams, in one of my waking moments, I went back to the house, and the house was empty, and I couldn't understand why my mother had left without telling me that she was going. It's an extraordinary dream. But that's the sort of dream you get from reality TV. This world that you live in for a month or so is so dominant, and then it just goes. And it's a world which you've negotiated so much trust. You put your trust in production, and production's played around with you. I was incredibly lucky. I had a very good time, but I was incredibly lucky that I had a good edit. I was not made to look a fool, except where I chose to be a foolish. But my heart goes out to the people who've been persuaded to be on the traitors. And I think, yes, it makes good television. But is it good for our society? Is it good for our moral health? There's an organization called UCAN, which has been set up in the United States, where I've been talking to them and trying to work out whether or not we can set something up similar to that in the UK. Because people go into these television programs without any form of external support. No agents, no union, and only the experience of what they've seen or what they've been told. Very little knowledge about what a reality TV program will actually involve. And your neighbours will say, oh, they'll make you look bad. That's the least of your problems. The biggest problem is a loss of agency, a loss of control, not just during the program, but afterwards. And it's so difficult to get back agency. It's so difficult to take control again of your life. In the army, when the army plays games to prepare soldiers for the possibility that they might be captured and tortured, held hostage, there is a technique which is very similar to reality TV, but it's done with great care over a very short space of time with a lot of psychiatric support. I was in the circle for a month. I had very little support unless I thought I needed it. And even then, it was mostly down to a tick box of, do you have suicidal thoughts? And if I said yes, we just moved on. I know people in this reality TV world who have thought of taking their own lives. And I can't see into their heads. I don't know why they thought that. But I do understand the extreme depression that follows this exposure. It's not about whether somebody is popular or unpopular. It's not about whether they can negotiate fame or the loss of fame. It's about a loss of agency. It's about suddenly realizing you're not in control of yourself. And there's a difference between the somebody on the comments today said, who are you, the real Tim? I don't know. The real Tim seems to be the character on the circle. I'm just the shoddy shadow. Or is it the other way round? And that's sort of the point. The Tim that people know is the one they see on More 4, not the one that I see every morning when I'm working. I have a mirror in front of me, by the way, so that I can so that when I draw, I can see my expressions, because when I'm not teaching, when I'm not doing YouTube, I'm making animated films in a traditional way, drawing characters, moving, and expressing emotions. And to express an emotion, I have to know what that emotion feels like and looks like.